He's here.
But
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's
too much time in the private sector.
let's get back to the budget for public facilities, and I think that our next item on our agenda today would be to look at capital projects, right?
Good question.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so the capital projects exhibit is Exhibit E in the tentative budget. So if you're in the front, from the front of the book, look for the tab that says capital budget.
On mine it says Exhibit C, if I got it.
Well, Exhibit C is the first exhibit that shows you the history of existing capital projects. So keep flipping through a few more pages until you get to Exhibit E.
Thank you.
I was never good at three-ring binders.
Okay, Exhibit E, okay. I found it, thank you.
Okay, so you have your project areas in the column to the left. Your total project cost is the next column over. And then the various columns to the right of that are the funding sources, and it's broken out by each, in each category for each project. Okay? So for example, for the first one, the sheriff's office, the total project cost is $564,000. If you look to the right, $224,000 of that is being paid through interest earnings, and the other $340,000 is being paid with fund balance. So that's how you would read that exhibit.
I'll just add on to that, that in some cases, I can't remember if there were really any, the original request might have been higher than what was actually approved in the budget. So the first column and the last column may not match, and that would be why, if that was the case.
Okay. Yeah, just keep on E from there, it's a few exhibits deep. Okay. Are there,
Mr. Chairman.
are there examples of that, where it would be more?
Yes, that would be in the transportation line. So if you look down that left column, you go down to transportation.
Mhm.
Total project cost is $2,756,195. But 1.358 million is what's being used out of fund balance, and that's what's being contributed this year.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah, so that's an example of what she was referencing.
part of the ask was not funded.
Correct. And maybe just for the benefit of some of the newer, or at least one newer person on the committee, I think, since last year, just as far as the process goes, up until now, the planning board does a review of all of the capital project requests initially, and they will rank them. They made a presentation at, I guess it was the June meeting. And then from that list, then there's a capital projects review committee that meets twice before the tentative budget is finalized. And that capital projects review committee is made up of some legislators, DPF director, the county executive, Jennifer and myself, and kind of go through the recommendations of the planning board, and then determine, the county executive decides on the final list of projects that he would like to include in the tentative budget. So that's the list that you have now in Exhibit E.
Katie, for clarification, when we look at Exhibit E, under the column that says general fund balance, is that the amount that's coming out of the H fund?
No.
No.
Interest, well, nothing comes out, technically, nothing comes out of the H fund for that. So the interest earnings in the first column are dedicated revenues for capital projects And the H fund is where we budget for general fund projects, so those interest earnings get transferred from the A fund to the H fund for any capital projects that are being funded by interest earnings. And then the general fund balance column shows you how much out of general fund balance that we're proposing to fund capital projects with.
Okay, then how much is coming out of the H fund to fund capital projects?
Oh, the capital project reserve, if that's what you're getting at, is 190,000 is being used out of the reserve for capital. The reserve, that reserve is actually a reserve of the general fund, not of the H fund.
Okay, then what is how is the money in the H fund appropriated?
We don't, the H fund is just the fund that's used for capital projects. So, nothing's appropriated from the H fund. It's where we create the budget for it. So anything that's a budget item in the H fund is because we've done an inter-fund transfer from the A fund to the H fund for those projects.
Okay, so it's where the money resides for the projects that have already been approved in the budget and the money's been appropriated in the budget.
Correct.
Okay, so on the fund summary report,
Uh-huh.
where we show a transfer from the A fund to the H fund next year proposed of $3,269,000, that is for the projects that were approved in the 2023 budget. Is that correct?
Say the beginning part of that sentence again, for your question first.
Okay, in the fund balance summary, we show transfer from the A fund to the H fund of $3,269,000.
Where is the fund balance summary?
Are you talking about on the projections?
I'm talking about the fund balance summary.
Schedule 1?
I don't know, it just says 24 tentative budgets, the first page in the budget book.
Oh, the local share spreadsheet.
Yeah, local share summary.
So that is the transfer that goes from the A fund, and that's a revenue in the H fund. So whatever projects that we are approving to fund, somehow or another, the money needs to get transferred into the H fund. And then that's a revenue for each of the capital projects in the H fund. So that's considered a transfer of revenue, so to speak, for those H fund projects. So if you look on the next couple of pages to, in the local share spreadsheet, if you go down to Department 99, a couple pages in the local share spreadsheet.
In the local share spreadsheet. Department 99.
So at the bot, yeah, so you'll see under countywide expenditures, Department 99.
Yep,
The last item there is A 9950, transfer to capital, and you'll see the appropriation out of the A fund is $3.2 million.
yes.
So that number is made up of $762,000 of interest earnings, plus the amount of general fund balance that we have proposed to be used to fund capital projects. So those two items, so the interest earnings plus the fund balance that we're using, the 2.3 million that we're using to fund capital projects, is what gets transferred to the H fund for the projects that are included in Exhibit E.
Okay, well, the interest earnings of 762,000 plus the general fund balance of 2,316,000, you add those together and you come up with 3,078,78.
So I'm sorry, that would also include the use of capital reserve of 190,860, so those three numbers is what's included in the interfund transfer.
Okay, so my simple mind, when I look at the local share summary again, and I see that the appropriations of 261 are reduced by the transfers to other funds. So the appropriation is reduced by the transfer to the H fund of 3.269 million. And then it's further reduced, or the property tax levy is further reduced by the appropriated fund balance for capital projects.
So in your appropriation, the $2,061,000 under appropriations, that's inclusive of the transfer to the H fund, the expense that's in Department 99.
Right, and so column C reduces the appropriation by that amount when we calculate the.
No,
property
not
tax
down
levy.
on the,
When we calculate the property tax levy.
yeah, these are complicated entries, and I can go through them with you. I guess maybe I can say, I'd like to say, I can assure you that it all balances. But the transfers can get complicated, so it's maybe easier to, I guess, is there an underlying question, or you just want to understand the accounting?
Well, and like I said, to my simple mind, it looks like we are reducing the property tax levy by taking out the transfer to the H fund, and then also taking out the use of fund balance, the appropriated fund balance. So looks kind of like we're double dipping, but we can talk more later.
Yeah.
Thank you for those questions.
Oh, no.
I wish,
Confusion.
yeah, it's, you got me confused. Okay. So, I guess back then to Exhibit E, the tentative budget of capital projects and the all of the interest earnings that we accumulated over the year are being spent here. That's everything that was, all the interest that was earned last year, right?
No, not necessarily. So the reserve for capital, I had to look up the actual balance of it, but the reserve for capital includes any accumulated surpluses from, maybe projects where we underspent, maybe we got another grant in the midst of the project and didn't need to use the interest earnings or whatever revenues were appropriated to it. So that money, once it's appropriated for a capital purpose, has to be returned to the reserve for capital. It doesn't go back into just the general fund balance. So the capital reserve, we've utilized $190,000 of the reserve for capital toward next year's capital projects.
Okay. Thank you for that. Are there any questions from the committees?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Okay. Looking at the DPF capital projects, there's a project for Martin Cobb Waterway Project and the following project for 15-year forest management plan, those were not in the capital plan? And is that because they're funded by timber sales, or?
You mean they weren't in the capital projects book for
Yes,
the planning board?
yes,
Or you mean they weren't
they were not in the book.
Are those
Yeah.
the ones that are financed through the grants that
They're
we
fi-
got?
They're financed by timber sale revenue.
I got the section right here that really went over in, at the capital, planning board meeting.
Were they in the ranking?
Yes, let me double check to make sure, but I do know that it was listed. It is listed in the 2024 capital budget. It is listed in the 2024 capital budget, 2025 to 2029 capital plan by the planning board in here. And let me see what the ranking on that was.
Bring my project.
It is in the initial ranking, but since the whole thing was covered by timber sales, it wasn't presented in the separate, table B that we presented to the committee, because it was 100% funded by user fees.
Okay. So it was not included on the list that was presented when the capital projects committee met, but
But
I think
it was reviewed and approved by the capital
by the planning board?
planning board.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my concern.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll shut up.
Thank you, Pierre. Dan, did you have?
Sure. It's just in regards to the highway improvements, the county roads, the various locations. It's a local share expense of $750,000. Just curious what some of those projects are and then what they're entitled. What are we doing?
Yeah. Just before Tim answers the detail what the projects are, just wanted to let you know that the projects that are on that page that you're looking at, those are projects that are included in the D fund, under the D fund capital projects. So they're, just wanted to give you that caveat. But Tim, those would include the projects in the 390 or 391 account that you usually fund with Articelli, CHIPS funding.
Yeah, that would be bridge work, road work.
Did you want the individual bridge numbers? Is that what you
No,
want?
just curious, what's the plan? Are we just doing more above and beyond and, more paving, more, you're just trying to get ahead? Or is it just kind of regular routine?
I think it's regular routine.
Yeah, trying to keep up with the rising costs probably a little bit too. It's just, it's a hit, it is a hit to the budget. I just wanted to know where, for a little more explanation on what the reasoning is and why.
So if going back to the local share spreadsheet in the beginning of the book, and if you flip a few pages in until you get to the D fund, there is no net increase in local share for the road and bridge capital improvements.
So, yeah, it's, every year, there are X number of bridges and roads that are, well, they get evaluated through the year, and they, put them on a list, and when they finally come up, they get funded, and it's, there's X number of funds every year that we put into roads and bridges, and that's divided up amongst the roads and bridges, and you get what you can get out of that lump of money.
Yep, and I completely understand and agree, do it more for, raise the conversation so everyone knows exactly why we have that in there, and, that's what we're doing. We're improving our infrastructure.
Right.
It comes at a cost, but that's why we're doing it, is, otherwise if we didn't, bridges.
They don't.
Decrepit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but it comes to a cost, and, so it's just, it's not an area really that I'm highlighting that we shouldn't cut and don't want to. But-
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm just trying to point that out too, so we're looking, but it's not a good place to look, so I just want the attention brought to it. So don't look. We looked, but it's.
Yes, I agree with you, that is a very, very important part of our budget, and I would hate to ever cut a chunk out of that.
If anything, we should add to it, but I'm not gonna go on record with that.
Stricken from the record. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Hello, yes.
I'm gonna break my promise to keep quiet, so.
No, we just love to hear your voice.
One of the capital projects is vehicle and heavy equipment replacement, where $1 million is projected to come from the general fund balance. Could we bond for that instead of taking it from the general fund balance?
Yes.
There you go. What would be the advantage to doing that?
The advantage to doing that, I think, is we would be able to reduce the amount of money coming out of the fund balance by $1 million.
And spread that over.
It would not affect the levy, but it would affect the fund balance.
But that would add an additional, the interest expense would be
Yes, it would add additional interest expense, yes,
to the budget.
yes.
So should any projects be approved for serial bonds in the 2024 budget? So I think we also have, we do have one project that is proposed to be funded with serial bonds.
Yes.
Just a note on, bond issuance, so if we were to issue bonds next year, the first debt service payment would not be until 2025. The heavy equipment, I believe, if we were bonding for that on its own, it would likely be a 5-year bond. If we also have scheduled a building that would generally probably be a 30-year bond. Sometimes you can combine them and do a weighted average. I wouldn't recommend that for the heavy equipment, but a 5-year bond, because they usually base it on what the useful life is for whatever you're borrowing for.
And Kitty, our bond rating, AA, AAA, it's high.
Yeah, we do have a good bond rating, and we've maintained that level for a couple of years now. the last time we issued bonds, I was hoping it would go up a little bit. They said maybe another year or so of consistent, healthy financial position, we would get bumped up another
Do you
notch.
know what
but
it is currently? Is it double A, triple A?
I think it's double A, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the interest rates?
Well, yeah, so, I mean, the last time we issued bonds, we did, get a favorable rate. The other thing is when we do issue bonds, typically, I mean, equipment's a little different. We usually issue the bonds after the equipment is received. Or if we have a construction project, we usually issue the bonds once the project is completed, so we know the actual cost that we would want to borrow. And that's mainly because we have enough cash really to float until the project is over. But if it was a really big project, we might issue a ban, a short-term borrowing before the project is completed. But for equipment, assuming it could get delivered next year, we would issue the bonds once the equipment was received. What?
Well, so if you, we're, the general fund balance, we're getting interest on it right now. Okay, so if you use the general fund, you lose that interest, but if you bond, you pay interest instead. I don't know. Is, I guess, the reasoning is that we're getting close to our general fund limit? Or, well, actually, there is no limit, right?
No.
It's just an advisory?
I'm not advising that, I'm just throwing that out as an option as discussions continue about what to do with the budget. Yep.
All right.
And generally speaking, because our finance department is so successful at investing our money, that the cost of borrowing compared to the interest that we earn on our investments is not that much different. In many cases, because of Kitty's wonderful success, we actually earn more interest than the cost of borrowing.
It's better than a wash.
Yes, better than a wash.
Okay. Is that another amendment?
No, I'm not making it.
Oh, okay.
Consideration.
A consideration, all right.
The time value of money is important, especially in the situation of creating this budget. So maybe a card to play if it is needed at a later date, within this week.
Yeah, like tomorrow.
But just so everybody heard the answer, it
Or this
was
afternoon.
yes.
The answer was yes.
The answer was yes. Okay.
Tim, do you have something to share with us?
No, I'm okay.
Oh, okay.
And I will re-ask that question if I could. Is everything on the list needed? Now that they identified the list, is it, everything's reaching its age and it should be replaced?
Yeah, and I have that list right here. I can read off what's on there. I believe the whole total was 2,398,000, correct? Is what we asked for. I have that list of equipment here someplace. So, and that was, I believe, 4 plow trucks to be replaced. Number 24, 25, 64, and 66. A forklift for the Faulkner shop, which the one there is, I believe, is 31 years old. Okay. A mini excavator for the operations. A motor grader for the Sherman shop, for the Sherman location. The Sheridan shop locker room air conditioning was in there. The parking lot for the Sheridan complex around the shop and the airport. A vibrating patch roller. I believe that is for the highway. The Sheridan shop door replacement. The 2 side mowers, roadside mowers, they're 10 years old, okay? And then, mower attachments for our grade alls, you know, the cutter heads on the end of our grade alls to cut brush and keep things mowed back. And then, the replacement of the, ongoing replacement of the salt sheds that we update every year. That's an ongoing, thing. So, you know, is it all replaceable? I mean, it needs to at some point, but I understand we have to pick and choose too.
Those are the items that you feel are the
That's-
most in need.
That's our Christmas list, yeah. So we're going from 2.3 down to 1 million. That's where we'll have to meet with our people and see exactly what's most important.
And just so everyone knows that last year, all these individual capital projects were itemized out. The planning board decided to go back to including them all into one grouping so that they didn't have to pick and choose what individual equipment they had to replace in a certain year. This way it gave them leeway where if a certain piece of machinery that they scheduled for 3 years down the road breaks down this year, they're allowed to use those funds to cover those costs.
And I believe that did happen last year with a loader, I believe. Something happened and they had to purchase a loader instead of something else that was, you know, that was there.
It allows flexibility, but there is a year-to-year plan in place.
So, we've, in the capital projects budget, you got half of your request, and now you gotta figure out what to leave off
Exactly.
the list. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
We gave you a half a present, huh? Half a Christmas. Okay. Does anyone else have questions concerning those capital budget projects? Or any discussion on projects we can suggest that should be kept or gotten rid of?
I'll just make a comment. After reviewing some of these projects and hearing about them, I think the county's being proactive in their replacement strategy and staying on top of what their equipment and buildings they're in need of, and it's responsible.
Yeah, that doesn't look like we're trying to replace anything that doesn't need it. Okay. Do we have any Other questions along the capital projects line? I don't seem to hear any. And since it's 1:30, and it looks like we have some personnel from the South and Center sewer districts, all the sewer districts. Maybe, that's what we should do, is dive into that.
Good afternoon. Tom Walsh, Director of the South and Center Stock Lake Sewer Districts.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Thank you.
Good. So currently at the South and Center Stock Lake Sewer District, we have 18 full-time employees. Our budget is based, sorry, do you have a question?
Yeah. How many open positions do you have currently?
We have 0 positions open currently.
Thank you.
So our budget is based on our customer base revenue, and we currently have 5,253 customers in the South and Center Sewer District. Approximately 500 of those customers are industrial users. And what that means is their billing is based on their water usage. And that is what our revenue is based around accordingly. In the new sewer district of Phase 1 sewer district, we have approximately 350 customers and a billing base of 390 units. And that is significantly different because in Phase 1, the sewer district customer pays $930 annually. In the existing South and Center Sewer District, the customers pay $354 annually. Phase 1 sewer extension customers, 2/3 of their billing is based on the infrastructure that will be built over the next 30 years at 0% interest. And that is that category. Okay, so we have a couple things going on. To move into our budget review, our summary, the 18 employees, and I'm going to move you right past 8110, which has now been merged into the 8130 account. So if we go to 8120, some of the differences, combinations of, in the personnel services, you can see that account is down. Difference is a combination of steps, contract raises, and the reduction of the 8120. One of the employees moved from the 8130 into the 8120 account. Equipment, the biggest piece of equipment we'll be purchasing in 2024 is a new heavy-duty truck that has a crane and is a multi-purpose vehicle at the cost of approximately $170,000. Another contractual account is a one-time purchase in 2023. That was an electrical contract that we had for a safety electrical. It's a flash study done on all of our electrical equipment in what they are is the motor control centers. The flash study is done by an electrical contractor that comes in and evaluates the voltage and the safety wear that would be needed prior to opening that piece of the panel that stores the energy of electric. That was a one-time deal that will only be done in 2023, and that study will be utilized for the next several years. And again, we did see an increase or decrease due to FTE status personnel services. Any questions on 8120? As we move into the 8130, this is a sewage treatment. The 8120 is the collection system. The 8130 is the treatment facility. We do see an increase in personnel services. Steps increases ranges from the on-call pay that was negotiated in this year's contract, and also in raises and the merging of the 8110 into the 8130 account. Equipment, slight decrease due to the projects needed. Contractual, change due to merging departments as well as projected increase in contract costs. The income as far as the revenue, we do see an increase due to the West Side Sewer Extension. But we will, in 2024, have a payment due to the New York State revolving fund that I expressed, 30%, 30 years, 0% interest. The payment will come out of that. And we do have sales of trucks going. Prior to COVID, we had a great system of purchasing trucks on the New York State bid. We would utilize them for 2 years and then turn them over. Unfortunately, after COVID, that whole system has gone upended. We're struggling to get trucks. It is an issue right now. The build dates are expected and failing, so it's a bit of a negotiation as how we buy and sell the trucks currently.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Which sewage, what are the treatment plants? What plants are we talking about?
South and Center Sewer District. It is the wastewater treatment plant in Celeron. It's just the one wastewater treatment plant that actually all the 8120 account, the collection system comes to that one point, correct?
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was the place
Yes.
that this was.
Yep, everything goes to that one facility. That is where the wastewater treatment plant is. We are permitted to treat 4.1 million gallons per day at that treatment plant. So it's a small treatment plant, but it in Western New York, it's an average size treatment plant. If you went to Chicago, that's 1.5 billion gallons a day. So in relation to the Chicago plant, we're quite small.
And you used to be able to identify where the plant was very easily because for decades, you could smell it all over the whole area. But because of the improvements that Tom and his staff have done to the treatment plant, you don't smell it anymore. The community loves it.
Yeah, we've made some great, I mean, the science is always evolving, and we're very fortunate with the staff to continue to evolve and really make some fantastic improvements. Of course, we have board support to do such things as well. But yeah, we are, as far as what we have to do, DEC mandates we remove 85% of all the nutrient loading coming into that plant. We have a record of achieving 98 to 99% removal. So with the factors that we've done and the ability to do different changes, we've really exceeded our expectations of what needs to be done.
Thank you.
And what you take out of,
Okay.
then you send that to the landfill, right?
Well, actually, we're very fortunate. We don't do any solid removal. We, years ago, put in a force main pipeline that takes all the solids and we pump them right to the Jamestown wastewater treatment plant and to one of their pump stations. Then that conveys it on, and we pay them cents per gallon.
Uh-huh.
By doing that, it eliminates all our sludge handling costs, chemical costs, and of course there's less odor because we're not storing it at our facility. So it's a great system, and they do well by accepting it because
It's like sand. It's kind of interesting stuff.
no.
I didn't play around too much with it.
Didn't sift it through your fingers, huh?
Good thing you didn't step in it, right?
Quick.
Build a sandcastle.
Yeah.
You could.
Can we mix it with the road salt? It's very gritty, I bet you could, and they'd be glad to get rid of it.
That might be a whole nother issue.
Loss of revenue in the landfill.
Yeah. With your, the trucks, is that something you can, a lease?
Well, what we were purchasing every 2 years
Yeah.
and really rolling them, now we're not on that. We are forced to keep them probably an extended 3 to 4 years. So we're gonna have to make do with the vehicles we have, in the.
For a while, huh?
It is. I know currently our 23 vehicle is supposed to be built in November. That's the build date. And they said if it's not built, we'll get it to you next year. So,
Everyone's on
and
strike.
of course,
Maybe
now with the
next year.
strike, yes.
And
we
these
had-
this is a pickup truck, or is this a little bit larger?
These are pickup trucks, but the truck that we have mentioned in here is a dual, it's a dually pickup truck. So that's about a 550 Ford F-250, or Ford F-450. But it's got a custom bed, it's got a crane, it's a multi-use truck that we can use, and that might be a little bit, we're budgeting to purchase in '24. It'll be difficult to actually get it in '24, but we are budgeting for it.
Order it, at least.
We are ordering it, for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And as we move into the contingency, we have $250,000 contingency fund for that rainy day, hopefully never have to use emergency fund. And then so we move on, and then we see the truck purchases.
Kitty getting interest on that, too?
I'm sorry?
Is that money, is that the
That is just a
savings?
budgeted line item.
Oh,
In case if there is ever a catastrophic pump failure, pump break, we have the resources to go hire another contractor to come in and set up a bypass system if ever needed, or whatever is needed. We have the money prior to, the money set aside that we could use that readily.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'd probably have to get the legislators together and in the middle of the night to vote out an addendum to get that moving. But yep, we've always had that there, but to my knowledge, Pierre could probably speak to this, I don't know if we've ever had to use it
Once,
once.
small amount.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
And so just the overall, this is a very favorable budget. The revenue and the gains and loss. The question that was asked to me regularly in the West Side Sewer Extension, how's it going? And I was very fortunate to always have the reply of, we're on schedule and we're on budget. So I would say that as well as about this budget. We're on schedule and we're on budget.
All right. Sounds like a great report.
Okay, any
Are
questions?
there any questions from the committees, either committee about this? Enterprise fund? I think.
Okay.
sounds like-
I'm sorry, I need to interject really quickly. Tom, I owe you an apology for this because there was a little bit of an oversight. It actually fleshes out better overall for you.
Okay,
Flushes out.
When these departments were consolidated, we missed an entry of moving one of the revenues over.
okay,
So there's gonna be 60,000 more in revenue, and then there's a total of 53,000 and change of the additional .1 charges that was not moved over as well in one of your departments. So, the two changes are actually net a positive effect, but those amendments will be happening to your budget as well.
okay, that's better news.
I wanted to let you know.
That's good,
I'm
see,
sorry.
we're on budget, we're on schedule.
Home run.
Very good.
That's great.
Okay.
Two offsetting budget adjustments. Great.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. How about the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District?
Uh-oh.
Is this the fun one?
I hope she's got good news for me, too.
I'm I'm sorry, I don't have anything for you.
A lot of good news today, huh?
I'm sorry.
That's the way it happens
I've
sometimes.
been saving all my questions for right now.
Well, I'll see if I can answer them. Matt Olvick, Director, North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District. The North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District has four full-time employees and an account clerk, which is an employee of the finance department. There's 1,306 customers in the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District. As you know, we take, also, some of our employees are farmed out, or we take care of the Portland, Pomfret, Dunkirk Sewer District and maintain the North Chautauqua Lake Industrial Water and Sewer District.
He does everything.
Sounds like, I noticed, ours, or my, FTE sheet shows 3.49. Is that because of the ones that are farmed out?
Yeah, that's,
Okay. Alright.
myself is actually 70% North District, 20% PPD, and 10% the industrial water and sewer, 5% each. And one mechanic is, where'd they have that? He is
Mechanic,
70% PPD, paid by PD, 10% North, and 20% with the industrial and water and sewer district.
So Matt, do you have any open positions currently?
No. So as we start out, I will say the same thing Tom did with admin.
uh-huh.
Admin got shifted to 8130 under sanitary. I'm sorry, under treatment, that one under treatment. So we'll start out under sanitary. There's not much we're gonna do. It looks like I'm looking to replace 3 pumps at one pump station because they're getting quite old. There's some increase in contractual costs due to the price of pump rebuilds going up. Honestly, everything increasing.
No surprise.
So that's kind of where we're at there.
A vehicle lease?
So the one vehicle is leased, so the lease payment is in there.
Oh, that's just
Just,
showing that to the line?
yeah, it's just
Where
showing
the lease payment is?
some of that money goes towards the vehicle lease. I believe it is right around between $500 and $600 a month.
And that's just a pickup truck for
Yes.
around your, plow a little snow in your driveway or something?
Yeah, it's a backup for the backup plow truck. We have 2 pickups. One is we bought outright, and this one, prior to me taking over, they decided to lease it. It was better to lease it. And the lease company hasn't wanted it back yet for some reason, so. The mileage is low and they haven't asked to change it out, so
Huh,
it's still working for us.
that's usually when they wanna change it out. when-
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's good.
Are those pump rebuilds, the pumps that you're taking out?
so, yeah, we have spare pumps.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Right now that if we take one out, we'll take that to the rebuilder and then put the spares in.
Yeah, so you're basically just using your supply, you just rebuild them every time.
Yeah, we buy 10 a year. That's what the Myers grinder pump is.
Yep.
We buy 10 of those a year to replace older ones that can't. There's 170 grinder pump stations here in the village or in this district.
Okay.
And that's ours. The town of Chautauqua was gonna put in another 60 to 70, hopefully starting this fall, and we will take over the maintenance and operations part of that. them as we do with the Chautauqua Heights treatment plant. That's where the 31,680 for shared services or revenue comes from, is from the town of Chautauqua.
New expected revenue.
Well, that's actually revenue we're getting now.
Maybe two. You expect to get more.
We expect to get more, yes.
Just don't know how much yet.
Right.
So that's, you're already planning for that in the
They
budget?
are in design stage now. Going to bid shortly, I believe.
Hopefully when the easements are obtained.
Bob's the holdup.
Scudder's holding them up. No, I didn't say that. Did I say that out loud?
Can't destroy those blueberry bushes.
I have a question, man, if I can.
Yes.
It's just for me, how large are these pumps you're talking about, physical size of these things?
So the grinder pumps are just 2 horsepower. Physical size, they weigh 80 to 100 pounds.
Okay. So just curious in the size of the pumps.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2 foot tall, and 6-8 inches round.
Each one serves a small area.
Yeah, 1 to 2 houses. The most they'll put in with a 1 grinder pump system is 2 houses. If there's more than 2 houses that go in a tank, they usually put 2 pumps in the tank. Questions on that sanitary then?
Any questions?
8130 treatment. Of course, the big change here is that the administration came over into this account, and Steve or Jen, that's because the comptroller said,
That was based on a recommendation from New York State based off of the 2022 annual update document. So they're phasing out all 8110 admin codes for all enterprise sewer districts throughout New York State to simplify the process. So that's why they're eliminating all the 8110s, and we had to have the fun task of combining everything and make it look all confusing, at least for this year.
yeah, I'm glad they thought it was easy. Here in equipment, we just have a replacement pump in the wet well at the plant. You know, our price of our chemicals has maintained itself right now, but I see them coming soon with an increase. Everything else has. The other stuff that's listed on the side here is just replacement filter parts and UV lamps, so we have them because they have to be replaced every so often. Again, we have our 3rd screw pump, so this will be the 3rd year for a $50,000 shot there of replacing the bearings. We had one go bad 2 years ago and destroyed the shaft and all.
Oof.
It was quite expensive, so this year we replaced the other one before the shaft went bad. Unfortunately, the company told us we still have to buy the shaft.
Still got the shaft.
So, and they're $28,000. So after they took this one apart, because it wasn't destroyed, we got a bunch of numbers off the bearings, and I was able to go to the Cayman bearing, and we have all the bearings to replace the 3rd one. We shouldn't have to replace the shaft, but if we do, we have the spare because they only put bearings in the 2nd one, you know. So it should be less than $50,000 this time. I bought the bearings and the seals for $1,300. So
There must have been a little markup in there somewhere.
that shaft is, yeah, there's a little mark up there somewhere.
Okay.
One of the I think unique characteristics of this treatment plant is that they disinfect their effluent with ultraviolet radiation. And those lamps can be expensive when you have to replace them, but the state requires you to disinfect the water coming out of your treatment plant before you release it to the environment. In this case, it goes into Chautauqua Lake. South and Center treatment plant in Celeron, they disinfect like most plants do with chlorine. So you put chlorine into the water coming out of the treatment plant to disinfect it. Oh, but and New York State requires you to remove the chlorine before you release it to the environment. So they put chlorine in the water to disinfect it, and then they have to treat it to take it back out before they, and this plant, several years ago, implemented ultraviolet radiation, so they don't have to use any chlorine.
It's proving cost effective over the chlorine? Is it a reason to change the
It's,
other plant to
yeah, it is
V?
been a little bit of a savings, and we aren't dealing with the chlorine gas
Yes.
that we had to
Oh,
deal with the city.
hazard.
That's, yeah, that's a hazard to the employees, right?
Yeah.
This system, this disinfection system is very effective in small plants. It's not as effective and as,
scale, huh?
efficient in larger plants. So, it was a perfect fit for this plant.
I can't remember the hours they said the lights should be replaced. Something. I don't remember the exact hours, but when we have replaced them, but we were well over the hours that they said, and they were still 90% efficient, so.
And you can
So we-
test, you do test
Yeah, there's a.
after
there's a
the
screen right there.
ultraviolet to
Yeah, we test,
make sure that
Yep.
they're working.
every day, we have to
God,
test.
they had a great engineer that designed that system.
Yeah. I'm waiting for her to call.
Don't mess it up.
So,
Okay,
our revenue is expected to stay, maybe increase a little with the town of Chautauqua coming in. And we still have the Mandolin Ridge development that has yet to have a house built in it. That I think there was quite a few lots up there, but still no action on.
so because there's no lots, there's no
There's no.
equipment, or do we have the pipes run?
The infrastructure's in the ground, but they have not turned it over to us completely. The law, they have not done all the paperwork on their side yet,
Okay,
so.
but,
So right now, we have no cost up there of maintaining it, but I'm guessing they're kind of waiting to maybe sell a lot or two before I'm not sure what their holdup is.
well, you would think if they would wanna have the connection, so if they do sell a lot, that
Yeah.
wouldn't be,
They've got a lot of money into that, so. Any more questions on the plant? There is we do have applied for a grant to study the plant, to see the capacity, to see how much more we can possibly take. Or, Peter knows a story that, South and Center.
Yes, when we were looking to do the expansion of the South and Center Sewer District up the west side of Chautauqua Lake, the Phase 1 and Phase 2 that you heard Tom talking about, initially, the engineers, in talking with DEC, said, you're gonna need to expand your treatment plant. You don't have enough capacity. So the engineers said, well, maybe we ought to just look into this a little further. So they did studies, and they went back to DEC and convinced DEC we had plenty of capacity in the plant when we didn't need to increase more of the plant. And DEC, once they saw all the facts and figures, completely agreed. So we are doing those extensions without any additional cost to the treatment plant. With the town of Chautauqua bringing the Chautauqua Heights Sewer District into the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District Treatment Plant. That's additional volume, and the town would like to bring in more sewer expansion into the treatment plant, but do they have capacity? DEC knows enough now to rely on our engineers to answer the question, so we're trying to get a grant to have the engineers do the same evaluation to see how much capacity does exist at the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District Treatment Plant.
Very good.
Another good engineer.
Okay. Debt
And
service.
It looks like we're headed in the right direction if everything works good. Our income is more than our expenses, so.
That's a good thing.
There's a lot of stuff still happening. We are still looking at the I&I repairs here in the village, or mainly in the village, but
Still a lot of old lines.
what's that?
Still a lot of old,
Yeah, there's a lot of
Pipe,
old clay tile
trees.
lines and some manholes that are old and leaking, so that is in the works.
all right. Any further questions for the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District? Doesn't sound like there's any, so we can then jump right into the Portland Pomfret, okay, sewer district,
Portland, Pomfret, Dunn.
TBD. Ooh.
So again, we have one guy that he doesn't spend 70% of his time over there, but one guy's dedicated to that,
Okay.
you know. Same thing with the admin, it went to 8130. There's 511 customers and over there. It's a very small district. It was put in the 80s, 82, I believe it was installed, and not a lot of upgrades since 82. So, again, there's an I&I project over there. They're actually in the design phase. With that, we're looking at, in that I&I project, we're looking at upgrading the last two pump stations that haven't been done through the budget. I just met with them yesterday. But our expenses there, under the sanitary sewer part, is there's 5 buildings and the roofs are original. We had a company come out and look at them and they said they all 5 need to be replaced. I budgeted this year to have 1 replaced and we're working on it. It's out to bid right now, I believe. And so I budgeted again to have another one replaced next year. A couple months ago, we had a transfer switch for the generators go bad. I won't say go bad, it works when it wants to. So, there's some money put in the budget to replace that transfer switch. Other than that, it's just normal operating under the sanitary. That project, it's $2.5 million, I believe, for the total I&I project if it gets through. We applied for FEMA, or not FEMA. I'm drawing a blank.
For a grant.
For a grant through, yeah. We haven't heard on the grant yet for that. But hopefully, I'm not sure when they start.
Christmas, basically.
Good Christmas present. Under the treatment, we're at the mercy of Fredonia. They treat all the water. Our infrastructure takes it right to their plant. I think it's $135,000 is what we budget. The last couple of years, we've actually saved some money there by some I&I repairs that we've managed to do, or the customers fixing violations. We're right in the process now of renewing that contract. Right now, we pay $3.08 1,000 gallons of for sewage. When we had our first meeting, they wanted $9.48 1,000.
That's Bob, that's it. Different, right?
We met with them again the other day. They are down to $7.40 1,000. But I don't know how we're gonna manage that increase.
Just meet with them again, it's going down every time you meet with them.
Right.
Meet with them 3 times next Tuesday.
So, I mean, we've been crunching the numbers, and I think they're trying to get more out of us than what it's, you know. Our engineer, I asked him a simple question: how much does it cost to treat sewage? And he said, I would say less than 50 cents 1,000 to actually treat it. Now, I understand they got infrastructure, you know, that they gotta replace too, and we gotta pay a percentage of that, but our flow to that plant is only 4% of their flow. They're looking for way more than that. And our expenses over there, just in our infrastructure, are going up, and you'll see the final numbers don't look that great. It shows a $44,000 loss. You'll hear from us in the near future, because we are working on a price increase, trying to get a price increase there for our users.
The users, try to increase the user
Yes.
fees.
No, we did the public hearing. They wanted to make it a flat rate of $200 per quarter per customer, and a lot of those people are summer people, and there was a lot of opposition to that.
That's at the point, Matt?
Most of them
point.
were in the point, yeah. Yeah, that's where most of the opposition. So-
I've heard some of the opposition.
And so now, I think they went for maybe a $40 increase per quarter, is what they're gonna present, the board.
The board.
And they had the public hearing the other day, and only 6 people showed up. We did get a couple emails from people in the point that are much happier with this rather than
The 200.
the 200. And actually, one of the ladies there, you know, she was from the point, and she said, I want to thank you for doing this, not the $200 flat rate. And she's a full-time resident in the point, so. But she's a single lady that lives there. She's, you know, she's conserving her water and. Sure. So anyways, that bottom line, you know, hopefully with a little increase, and we can make that number change.
So, so the board has gone from 200 down to 40? As far as the recommendation?
So right now, there's three rates over there.
Okay.
There's 3 different places. The point and the
Bay.
Point and Shore Acres area
Okay.
are real old systems. They paid a base fee of 110. So they want to. Currently, they want to up that to 150. Everybody else paid $100 base fee, and they want to make that 140.
Okay.
And it seemed to go over, well, like I said, the first public hearing, I don't know how many, I forwarded Pierre every email I got, and there was several. We had 3 emails this time.
Wow.
And, yeah, so,
How'd they come up with 200 originally? Because they've gone from 200 down to 40 now?
so
mean,
they wanted to
200's
go, so their flat rate right now is $100 plus $12 per 1,000 gallons of water used.
Oh, okay.
So they wanted to take that water usage out and just make it a flat rate.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of what Kathleen had helped them figure, and she said you would need that $200.
Okay.
Yeah, is just the 40 enough? Is that gonna? Yeah, once you take that, the usage rate away?
Well, we're not gonna take the water usage away now.
Oh,
they're just
okay,
gonna
so
up-
you're gonna,
Yeah,
instead of
they're
going
still
to just
gonna-
flat 200,
Right.
you're gonna leave the $12 usage and add 40 to the flat rate.
Yes.
Which makes sense, because most of the people are seasonal.
Right,
Okay.
so that's, yeah,
I would say probably 80%.
I would say you're probably real close.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
good.
It should be enough, John, provided the treatment costs don't go through the roof.
Yeah, really.
Right,
Okay.
so. We need
More
some,
than that.
we need some help there.
I made a couple phone calls.
Just today. Okay,
That's all I have, unless you guys have more questions for me on that.
yeah, any more questions on this,
Nice job.
Portland, Pompert, Dunkirk Sewer District? If there are no further questions, then the North County Industrial Water and Sewer District.
Okay. In that district, there's only 16 customers, and they're all industrial,
How many, man?
16.
16.
Really, under the sewer portion, there's not much there. We're gonna replace some pumps because they're old. In the sewer pump station, there's only one pump station over there, so. Not much there on the sewer part of it.
So the water part of it, you're gonna replace one pump?
No, that's the sewer.
Oh, the sewer you're gonna replace it.
Yep. And the water, there's really no changes other than increase in cost of normal operating. Right now, the water tower project, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but
I haven't seen it, no.
they are supposed to be wrapping that up by the end of this week or early next week. I should have taken some pictures when I was by there.
Yeah.
We're real happy we got that project done this year, because that water tower was in desperate need of maintenance and repair. And so we allocated ARPA funds for it, and the cost, the bid cost came in substantially above the amount that we allocated for ARPA. So we are allocating fund balance from the industrial water district to pay the additional costs. So good news is we got the project done this year. Bad news is it cost us more than what we had planned.
More than the 860,000.
Yes. This is a very specialized process when they do work on these water towers, and I didn't see it with my own eyes, but I saw lots of pictures, and it's an incredible process they do.
Is this being lined or something like that, or no, what did they do?
Well, first they have to repair any holes. And so there's lots of welding that goes on, grinding and welding. And then they put a liner on the inside of it, and they paint the outside of it. Now, how do you paint the outside of a water tower? With a lot of difficulty.
One stroke at a time.
Especially when the wind is blowing like it blows over there.
Exactly.
Scaffolding, right?
No, they actually put a structure on top of the water tower, and so they would
Oh, they-
suspend,
Drape.
Spend down off.
and then suspend, and then, whew,
Yeah, it was,
No wonder it took,
quite a
cost so much
process.
money. But it's done, huh? Or almost?
almost done, yep.
Good. Or, good for another 100 years.
Hopefully.
No, maybe not 100.
Not 100, Terry? Okay,
And,
any other
nothing
exciting
else-
things
nothing
going
else
on
in the
there?
water, and total looks like we're $34,399 in the good, if everything goes right.
Okay. If everything goes right. All right.
I always have to throw that in there. Yes.
There won't be any need for rate changes there, huh?
Not that they're proposing anyways, I mean, Brian Pearl's really his title's his
He's the
title,
chairman of the board.
chairman of the board, and he hasn't indicated that they need to, and I don't think there's,
No, they're very protective of their customers, because they only have a few of them, and they're all industrial customers. And we'd like to make sure we take care of our industrial customers, because they're big employers over there. So they're very protective of their customers on that board, to their credit. I mean, they're doing a great job of working to protect their customers.
Good deal. All right. Thank you very much. That completes your,
That's all Matt does.
that's all he does?
No more?
Was a great show.
He does a great job.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, last but not least, North Chautauqua City,
Chautauqua County
or county
Water District.
water district. All right. Here too.
Oops. Sorry, Olivia. Okay, hello, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm Kathy Tampio. I act as administrative coordinator for the North Chautauqua County Water District.
And I'm Dan Pecos. I'm the chairman of the Board of Directors of the North County Water District.
Okay. So, I'll address probably the first question about employees. There is no employee of the Chautauqua County Water District, except that part of my salary as financial analyst for the legislature is allocated to do the administrative work for the district currently.
And you're certainly not overpaid. Right, Dan?
I would agree.
So that's what shows up on the FTEs at .29. That's me.
An open position.
No open positions. Are you applying, or? All right, I'll get back to the front page, and this one can take off, and get to the detail of just the water district, and then we'll do the debt service, if that's okay. So, the personal services line, you'll see that's for my services. And then the contractual, it shows a decrease this year. As a result of discussions with auditors from the Office of the State Controller, we revised our estimate of the total of gallons purchased and sold through the district. Last year's budget was 300 million, this year is 240 million. That's based on historical data, especially from last year, which was very similar. I think it was 407 million. So a much more realistic estimate, which lowered our estimated revenues and expenses, of course. And the employee benefits, the .8s, that's just the associated benefits with the allocated salary. Okay, so currently, the cost of water for that 240 million gallons is $3.84 per 1,000 gallons. And that's to our sole supplier for the water district, the city of Dunkirk, for which we have a current contract. Okay, and now down to the revenue section. The revenue includes the 240 million gallons times what the district charges CBI Waterworks, which is our sole customer, because we have a contract with them for selling the water and also for the operation and maintenance of our water system. So the revenue from them is included in the revenue for the water. Let's see, okay. Let me get back to revenue, let me get back to expenditure. So the cost of water under the contractual lines based on what we pay the city of Dunkirk and what we pay the operation and maintenance bills from CBI Waterworks, which also includes the utilities on the western system of our district, which was a project, our Phase 1 project, which was done actually by the village of Brockton under their EFC funding. So we have a contract with Brockton also to pay the debt service for their 30-year loans for that project. But part of our contract with them is we also reimburse CBI, their work for them, and any expenses that Brockton incurs for utilities, the electric, the gas, et cetera, for their facilities, a water tank and a pump station on Route 5. So that is your cost for contractuals. So back to the revenue. So the revenue is what we receive from CBI, as they pay their water bills, and the bills that we bill them for water. And they send us their payments. And that has been decreased, of course, because of the estimated number of gallons sold, the 240 million. And also, part of the revenue stream as of last year was a miscellaneous payment of $132,000, which has been discontinued through the Finance Department's determination, discussions with the Office of State Controller. So at this point, before we get into that, and Mr. Pecos will take you into that, I want to let you know a quick update on our capital project. We're currently in our Phase 2 project. Originally, the schedule was to have been finished by the end of 2022. Everything had been extended through COVID and supply chain issues, and we are currently looking at the end of this year to complete the projects, which is a new storage tank in Sheridan, the water main from a new pump station in the town of Dunkirk, water main from there all the way up to the new Sheridan water tank. The contracts are extended till spring of '23 to allow for restoration over the winter that may be required for each of the contracts. So our funding agencies, EFC and ESD, are aware of the delay and why it is. They're very understanding. So we're looking to final completion mid-2024.
The big holdup on that project was the emergency generator for the pump station. We weren't allowed to start the pump station or have it operational until the emergency generator was in operation, and that was a 56, 58-week lead time because of the COVID supply chain issues. So that came in, that's in place. We're waiting now on just the National Grid hookup to the pump station, and then that'll be operational.
So we see we have and you can see from the first page that we have a deficit. We're not totally balanced in our budget, and that's what Mr. Pincus will be
Thank you.
talking to you about.
So my understanding, the $132,000 of miscellaneous revenue that we've been budgeting and recognizing over the past several years was the result of the grant that Brockton had received for part of the cost of the infrastructure that was turned over to the county. When the infrastructure was recorded on the county's books in the enterprise fund, it was put on at the total price, but the borrowing was the net amount. The difference was the grant. And what we've been doing, or what the county's been doing, is amortizing that grant revenue, and I'll look to Kitty for whether or not I'm right on this. This is my understanding. They have been writing off 10% of the revenue each year to match the borrowing, was my understanding. State Controller came in and said, no, you should have recognized that all 100% up front. When I met with the State Controller's auditors here, I had the discussion with them that I think recognizing 10% a year over the life of the loan was realistic, or certainly reasonable. But my question was, what is the difference if you recognize that all up front? What happens to that revenue then? And they agreed that it would flow to the fund balance and then sit there. And I told them if we did that with our towns and villages, you would nail us on our audit for overcharging people because we had that money sitting in fund balance. So I asked them, what's the difference if we recognize $132,000 in revenue each year, or we appropriate $132,000 in fund balance? And they looked at each other and said, we're going to have to run that up the flagpole and get an answer. And I never heard back. But my question is, if the determination was made that the revenue should be recognized in 1 year, I would like to ask that we appropriate fund balance for the $92,859 difference and balance the budget without increasing the water fee to the customers, because the money is in fund balance. So that's my question.
Well, essentially with an enterprise fund that has an operating loss, we don't technically appropriate fund balance, it's just reflected as a loss, which means it comes out of your fund balance, so the effect is the same.
Ouch. So that was my question. Rather than raise price 40 cents per thousand on the customers, which would then raise the price to CBI, and we would have to raise the price to our customers again, we raised our price 10% this year to start addressing the balance that CBI owes to the county, and we are making really good progress on that. I think, knock on simulated wood, this is going to be the first year we close in the black. And as of the last financial statement I had last week, we owed, our balance to the county is below the 1.2 million that it's been. It's down over 1.1. We just paid off 262,000. So,
Kitty, what is the fund balance of the North Chautauqua County Water District now?
Well, the fund balance is negative until we issue the bonds for the construction project.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
they're,
Right. Well, Dan, I would point out one thing that is unique about enterprise funds is that the water district is charged depreciation. And that's a non-cash item. So the $250,000 that you have in your budget for depreciation will fall into your fund balance. The concept is that your fund balance will grow to replace equipment that you need replaced down the line. The philosophy that we utilize for the other sewer districts and water districts is that that's almost double dipping, because if you get 20 years down the road and you need to replace a water tower or some major equipment, you're gonna bond for it, and you're gonna pay that off over 30 years, so why do you need fund balance to pay for it?
that's my question.
Right. So the fact that you show an operating loss of $45,000, recognizing you have $250,000 expense in there for depreciation, that's gonna fall into your fund balance. So your operating loss is more than covered in your fund balance by that depreciation expense. So the fact that you have an operating loss of $45,000, when you have $250,000 of depreciation expense, not a problem.
Okay.
well, the reason that the depreciation is recorded in the enterprise funds is because we don't record the principal for debt service, so at some point, whereas like in our general fund, we have the principal and interest payments, but in the enterprise funds, they have depreciation in lieu of principal, so they still need to have that cash that's paying back down on the bond payments once the bonds are issued. So it's more of a cash issue in terms of the revenue
Right,
to
it's
offset.
cash management, right.
Yeah, so the revenue coming in should still cover the depreciation, because essentially that's the equivalent of their principal payment.
Because they're not budgeting for a principal payment.
Correct.
So that shouldn't be a problem.
Are we making a principal payment right now?
No.
Well,
Because we haven't
not
gone
right
to bond
now,
yet.
But once we issue the bonds, after the project is completed,
Mhm.
there'll be a interest and principal on the debt service. The interest will be an expense, in your budget, and you'll have the full depreciation of the full project once it's completed. And then as principal is paid, it's reducing your long-term liability on your balance sheet. But you should still have the total revenue coming in to cover all of the expenses.
So how many years will that be depreciated over?
Oh, it's likely to be a 30, I mean, usually the bonds are based on the useful life of the project, so I'd anticipate it being a 30-year bond.
Yep.
Okay, so the 250,000, is that using 30 years?
I'd have to ask Todd,
Okay.
Todd Button that question, because he's the accountant. But yeah, the depreciation would be what has been, construction in progress already that's been, capitalized, and the depreciation on what we've already capitalized.
So does anything have to change in this?
I don't think we
Current
need to
budget?
change anything in the budget, no. Having what is reflected as an operating loss, that loss is just reduces your fund balance when, we close the books at the end of the year.
Okay.
And you're projecting to have a $325,000 surplus this year.
We are.
Which will certainly offset $45,000 shortfall next year.
Oh,
On this page.
in 2023, the 320.
Right.
My first page.
No, third page. This one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're fine.
Okay.
If you're
Good, that's
happy,
what I
we're
want to hear. I just didn't want to raise the water price 40 cents a thousand if we didn't have to. That's right.
We're good. We're good.
Okay, we're good then.
Just complete those projects.
We will.
We're working on it.
We are. We're already working on the next phase, next scheme.
Don't talk about that.
Yeah, no, we won't. All right. Okay. Do you have any other questions for us?
I don't, no? Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Here we go.
Just for good housekeeping measures,
Mhm.
Through your budget process, do you feel that you've taken into account some of the suggestions that were necessary and implemented them into the budget according to the state comptroller's audit?
Yes, but I'll also let you know that the audit has not been finalized. It has not been transmitted to the county yet.
Thank you.
We've anticipated and reacted.
Yeah, before we get.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bzzz. Okay.
We haven't been reporting it like this, we have to make this change.
Crystal clear.
Pending their final, we didn't even get their draft report yet.
All right.
But they sent me a copy, what they think that should be, and I sent it to Todd, he's looking at it. So he has some questions.
The force.
There's no reason to be concerned. There's no reason to be concerned. Then you go.
Have fun, because that's gonna be the humdinger.
It's gonna be really,
Yeah.
I think there would have been a.
The Thursday, or the Friday about it.
We've only been on the.
Yeah.
Is this the time when we would talk about amendments?
Yes.
Amendments. Amendments? This is the time we would talk about amendments? Okay, very good.
What the?
What amendments are there?
Okay. So, for today's amendments, first with Department of Public Facilities this morning. I know that you noted your $65,000 decrease in revenue and your $543,000 decrease to expenses. And we're also going to book an additional $16,100 worth of a decrease in .4s for the sale of the Ag Center, so that we can get that off of our books.
You're 16,000?
16, yes.
And for
I'm
the,
sorry?
for the Ag Center,
Yes.
That's,
Since that building is being sold, it's just .4s. It's just general, small .4 expenses for that building.
okay,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
I see, that's.
Yep, yep. So that'll be, those expenses will be rolling off the books, and we won't be realizing those next year.
Okay, so 16K of .4 expenses for the ag building. And what were the other two now? The, for the
Salt.
salt.
478,
Yes.
40.
Yes, the salt, 543,040 is the decrease in those appropriations. And then there's also a $65,000 decrease in the revenue, again, because of that decreased salt rate.
Oh, because
That's-
in
yes.
revenue, the salt that we sell to other.
Yep, yes, that is accurate.
Okay.
And then we have the changes to the South and Center Sewer District, which I briefly mentioned when Mr. Walsh finished his presentation.
Yes.
The overall effect is going to be an increase in appropriations in your .1s there for $53,050. And then an increase in revenue of $60,000.
Okay.
That covers it. That's all of them.
I'll make a motion to amend the, should we do them boom, boom, boom?
Yeah, do you
or
want to
all
do them one at a
together,
time, or?
I believe you can do them all together.
I'd like to make a motion that we do all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yes.
It's pretty good. All together, as stated by Jennifer.
It might be helpful if she just reread for the minutes the account numbers and then the dollar amount. Again, just, I think that's how we normally would want the amendments for the record.
Good, because that'll be on the record, right? Yes. Yes, that would be great.
If Jennifer could read those out, then I would make a motion to amend according to what she just read out.
That's wonderful.
I don't know the number.
You don't?
Jennifer, did you hear that?
Okay.
So we're gonna amend according to
Okay.
what you're about to
Yes, you are.
read out.
Okay, so, it will be D 5142 .4s. And that's a decrease appropriation of 543,040. We have A 1620, Subdepartment 8060, again, .4s. And that's a decrease appropriation of 16,100. We have D 5142, R 2770007. That's a decreased revenue for $65,000. And then the enterprise funds, ESS 8120.1, personal services. That's an increase appropriation, $53,050. And then we have ESS 8130, R212, 8000, and that's an increased revenue of $60,000.
Make a motion to amend as read.
Mr. Chair, I will second that motion.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the motion and the second. And any discussion on those motions and seconds by the committee?
Other than I couldn't have read it better than she did.
Yes, it was better listening to her voice then.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Okay, all in favor, please. And that's all opposed. Okay, the resolution, or the, yes, the amendments carry.
Excellent, thank you.
Let's adjourn.
Is there anything else to, you have anything else, Bob?
I'm all used up.
Anything else to add? Okay, great. What? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank
I
you.
will second that motion.
And let's-
We're adjourned.
We didn't vote.
Excellent,
Oh,
thank
okay,
you.
vote. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Email you what?
The list of all the minutes.
I've got them saved in the
All
system,
of
so
our
once we-
financial advisors.